Kate, if your marriage doesn't work out, maybe you two could give each other a try.
I mean, really is like family, and yeah, jolly lucky to have such an amazing friend.
Imagine for a second if your whole 25-year-long belief system on Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet was completely false. This real-life saga, so twisty, so soaked in mystery, or something far darker, a secret they've buried deeper than the ship itself, has captivated the world. And not only because of the tragic romance between Jack and Rose on the Titanic. The rumblings have persisted indefinitely, and in the year 2025, they are finally beginning to break. The events began in 2024 during a screening of Kate Winslet's edgy new picture. Prestigious members of the business were crammed into the room, and excitement was in the air. Unshaven and with sunken eyes, Leonardo DiCaprio appeared to have been escaping from something. As he approached the microphone, his voice cracked and trembled as if trying to break free. He looked Kate in the eyes as he spoke, his voice filled with affection, and his hands trembling to the point that he almost dropped the microphone. She has been my rock through thick and thin. Her absence would leave me utterly bewildered. Everyone in the audience fell into a profound silence. In the midst of smiling, Kate, who looked stunning in a black gown, froze, her eyes swelling up as if someone had smacked her for an instant. There was nothing but the two of them, their eyes communicating more than words could. Subsequently, the thunderclap of applause overpowered the gasps. Those who were present, however, claimed to have seen it, a glimmer of suffering, a hint of an unspoken word. As soon as word spread, Leo's in love. The web went wild. News outlets shouted, "Kate is his soulmate." "What are they trying to hide?" the crowd yelled out. That was the demand of the naysayers. Titanic catapulted two relative unknowns into international superstars in 1997, but the issue of whether or if they were more than friends has lingered ever since. That night, the flames were fanned. In his homage, Leonardo DiCaprio dropped a bombshell. A cry from a man who had spent decades avoiding the truth. Also, Kate didn't try to downplay it. Unlike before, she couldn't shrug it off. Sitting there with tears streaming down her cheeks, she let the world to wonder. Get ready for a wild ride of intrigue, betrayal, and heartache as we delve into their story. Here we're revealing everything about Hollywood's most tragic couple, from the hot anarchy of Titanic to the allegations that almost doomed them. In 1996, when it all started, there was a vast Mexican set, a made-up ocean crashing against a partially constructed ship, and the air was heavy with perspiration and salty. An unkempt young man with a tuft of blonde hair and an arrogant smile, Leonardo DiCaprio was 22 years old and desperate for a breakthrough part. At 21 years old, British actress Kate Winslet had a fiery gaze, strong cheekbones, and little experience performing on a major stage. James Cameron assembled this motley crew for his mad $200 million wager, Titanic, and they were all complete unknowns. From the very beginning, the production was a living nightmare. 7 months of relentless 16-hour days, water tanks so cold they made their teeth quiver, and a director whose screaming voice finally gave out. Leo shivered through take after take, his hands bleeding from grasping props, while Kate developed pneumonia twice, coughing so hard she feared she would die. Unadulterated misery, a pressure cooker capable of shattering any human being. However, with all that chaos, a spark ignited amid the yelling and shaking. Eventually, Leo and Kate did meet. In order to stay warm during breaks, they would gather under blankets, swapping smokes and making jokes. "He was a bit gorgeous, you know," Kate went on to tell a reporter. "I was afraid he might mistake me for an overly sensitive English girl, but instead he made me giggle." Laugh is an understatement. They were best friends and mischief makers who transformed the set into their own personal playground. Cameron would cry at them to stop being silly while she tickled him till he pleaded for forgiveness. He would grab her behind for the sheer joy of hearing her squeal, and they would both burst into laughter. They had control over the mayhem. That mayhem transformed into enchantment as soon as the cameras began rolling. Time stood still during the "draw me like one of your French girls" scene. Leo, drawing Kate with hands that trembled not from cold but from something else. Kate, clad only in a necklace, stared at him with eyes that could melt steel. You could feel it on the crew. Everyone on Earth would sense it. A connection so intense it melted the screen was palpable. The energy was electrifying. The rumors spread rapidly. After everyone had left, crew workers continued to speak about the late-night conversations that had taken place in Leo's trailer, and how Kate's laughter resounded across the lot. Sitting on the sidewalk like children, they would steal tacos from a vendor and sit there and chat about anything and everything. Their hopes, their concerns, and the craziness of making a movie that would be a disaster for them. "We got close too fast," Kate confessed after some time had passed. What a weighty term to use for a man she had just met. Maybe he was her lifeline in all that chaos. And Leo, he certainly wasn't bashful either. An old acquaintance of his heard him say, "Kate's different," in a low, almost reverent tone. "She understands me better than anyone else." Could you tell me what that meant? Were they simply friends formed in the crucible of a terrible shooting, or did it spark a love they denied for years? As time passed and the shoot progressed, the stakes increased. Threatening their very survival, Cameron acted like a despot. While filming a water scene one night, Kate's dress tangled with a prop and dragged her under, leaving Leo to watch in horror as he yelled out for her to be removed by the crew. In the midst of her fear, Leo held her close, cradling her in his arms as he prayed, "You're okay, you're okay." She was also wet and panting for breath. Even though it wasn't included into the screenplay, it seemed very real. On a separate occasion, Leo hurt his knee so severely by slipping on the deck that he was immobile for many days. Until he finally smiled, Kate remained by his side, giving him coffee and making fun of him for being a drama queen. As everything else around them plummeted, they held on to each other like anchors. Even after Titanic ended, they weren't ready to let go. Their final embrace was so lengthy and tight that it sent shockwaves through the team. "See you soon," Leo said with a heavy voice. With her eyes watering, Kate gave a silent nod and departed. However, that was only the start of a tempest that would pursue them for years, if not decades. Next thing you know, it was December 1997, and Titanic was a cinematic tsunami. Leo and Kate became cultural icons overnight thanks to the cultural behemoth that was their $1.88 billion film office smash and 11 Oscars. They went from being just actors to Jack and Rose, the tragic lovers who tore our hearts apart and still wouldn't let go. At events like the Golden Globes, premieres, and award presentations, they would parade down the red carpet with grins on their faces as if they were royalty. Supporters went absolutely bonkers, yelling out their names and brandishing placards that said, "Leo, Kate, forever." Their connection was electric, and we couldn't get enough. It was top-page news because every touch, every smile was examined. Did they date? Was there an engagement going on? Titanic love affair confirmed, and Leo and Kate, Hollywood's hottest secret, were some of the tabloid sensational headlines that accompanied the story. At the 1998 Golden Globes, the craze reached a boiling point. Leo, in a tux that couldn't conceal his anxious energy, and Kate, in a stunning emerald gown, walked the carpet together. The cameras were rolling like bullets, capturing every expression, every chuckle. When he leaned in to say something, she laughed so hard she almost fell and flung her head back. All throughout the place were the images. It became abundantly clear the following day. Sitting side by side inside, they cheered for the winners while their hands brushed across one another. They leaped up and hugged as if they had just survived the shipwreck again when Titanic won Best Drama. "We succeeded." Kate's voice was captured on a hot mic as she whispered. Leo said, "You and me," grinning broadly despite his trembling eyes. What did it imply that we were together? Despite the enthusiastic reception, the number of inquiries continued to rise. Then, in 2004, there was the Oprah moment that almost brought the internet to its knees. As he sat on her famed couch, Leonardo, now older and perhaps more rugged, fielded questions about his career. Oprah, ever the expert, asked, Which on-screen kiss do you prefer? He didn't even flinch. He said, Kate, as a mischievous smile tugged at his lips. Certainly, Kate. The spectators let out a gasp before erupting in cheers. However, as if he had overexpressed himself, Leo did nothing except sit there and stare into space. Come on, Leo, tell us more, Oprah urged. He chuckled, but it was insincere and contrived. When he said, we had a lot of practice, everyone in the room started cheering. You should practice. Everybody's thoughts raced to 100 Titanic kisses, those passionate, desperate times that seemed too vivid to be genuine. After going viral, the tape was rebroadcast on every talk program and gossip website. Allegedly, he's still in love with her, the audience shouted. It's plain to see. Was it, though? Things were made worse by Kate. During interviews, she would laugh and wave her hand to dismiss the allegations. Myself and Leo? She would respond, oh please, rolling her eyes, and he would nod in agreement, acting as a faithful sidekick. On talk programs, they would wait for each other to complete speaking before laughing at each other's private jokes. With her arms slung across him like a little brother, she stated, we're just mates, during an interview with Good Morning America in 1998. She said, the press makes it all up. Leo supported her and smiled foolishly. He spoke, yeah, it's ridiculous, but he looked away from the camera the whole time. Absurd, perhaps. But the denials were meaningless. Not when Leo couldn't stop raving about her to everybody who had listened, and Kate had already let slip the bit gorgeous statement years ago. In 2000, he assured a reporter, his voice nearly shattered, that she was his rock. It has been for as long as anybody can remember. Rock. That's not a word you toss around lightly. The tabloids would not allow it to die. Their every public appearance together, at dinners in Los Angeles or on walks in New York, was met with screams of scandal in the news. While Kate was married to Jim Threppleton in 1999, one blared, Kate ditches husband for Leo. In 2001, another blared, Leo's secret nights with Winslet, accompanied with fuzzy pictures of the two of them cuddling outside a nightclub. Wild tales abound, including clandestine hotel rendezvous, coded love messages, and an intense romance that might sink a ship twice. There was no concrete evidence of any of it, but rumors persisted, and you know what they say. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Every statement was purchased by the fans, who created blogs, wrote fan fiction, and begged for the truth. An emotional youngster told a television crew outside the premiere, "They have to be." She went on to say that the two were soulmates, but the sad and chaotic part begins now. As everyone else became fixated, Leo was crumbling. His golden boy persona belied his insanity, a combination of excessive drinking, pursuing younger models, and a desire to escape an unknown source. According to his friends, he would stutter his sentences and urge Kate to meet up when he called her late at night. He would yell out, "I need you," and she would dash over to find him strewn out on his couch, clutching a bottle. After the Titanic, he went missing. Years down the road, an insider said that fame hit him like a ton of bricks and that Kate was his rock, just barely sane. As he stumbled around gatherings, his eyes watering, he would whisper her name to anybody who would listen. "Kate gets me," he would slur, sounding pitiful and desperate, a guy engulfed in his own glitz and glamour. Kate, on the other hand, was constructing her life. She wed Jim in 1998, had a daughter named Mia in 2000, and did her best to act like a content wife, but the whispers never left her side. Jim despised it, the press, the constant use of Leo's name in conflict reports. You could count on her to stand up for him. Their marriage began to crumble after a friend of Jim's spilled, "He's my best friend, you don't understand." This sent Jim into a tailspin. In 2001, the guillotine of divorce papers was hanging over everyone's head. His run of flings with Giselle, Boonin, Barbara, and Raffi all fizzled out. So Leah wasn't in any better shape. No one measured up. Measured up to what? The perfect friend or the love he couldn't have? A buddy admitted that he compared everyone to Kate. The denials continued, but they were weak and unsubstantiated. "We laugh about it," Kate told People in 2002, her grin contorted. while Leo nodded alongside her, his expression betraying his lack of sleep. Then why did their every action convey a different message if it's all just nonsense? For some reason, as he entered a room, Kate's expression softened as if she had been holding her breath. Why did Leo's voice sound like it was hurting to let out every time he said her name? Their touching, staring, and magnetic leaning toward one another were visible to the public. Despite the criticism, they remained steadfast in their tale, standing unified in the face of overwhelming skepticism. A gradual burn of tension kept us engrossed throughout the early 2000s. Despite Leo's meteoric rise to fame, in films like The Aviator and Catch Me If You Can, his private life was a complete disaster. With a forced smile on his face, he would attend gatherings alone, his eyes betraying his true feelings. Then he would whisper, "She's great," and shift the conversation away from that. After becoming a mother, Kate attempted to relax, but the media never let her. Every interview seemed to revolve around Leo. "Is he the love of your life?" In 2003, an audacious journalist inquired. She said, No, we're family," while laughing uncontrollably. Absolutely, but members of the same family don't hold such a view of one another. In 2004, the powder keg was ignited by the Oprah Winfrey kiss revelation. They don't cling to each other like lifelines in a storm. Kate wasn't only a soundbite for Leo. It was a cry for help, a vulnerability in his defenses, and a man's attempt to regain what he had lost. According to a friend, Kate saw the footage afterwards and broke down into silent, ugly tears that made her tremble. "Idiot, maybe, but an idiot who just bared his soul to the world," she muttered to a friend, her voice betraying her. "He's such an idiot." As the tensions rose, the rumors intensified. Meanwhile, Leo's life was completely out of hand, what with all the parties and women he was involved with. Meanwhile, Kate was left with a baby and a lot of concerns after her marriage to Jim crumbled. Were they trying to hide an unmanageable love, or was their friendship too innocent to survive? At that point, something more substantial, something worse happens in the tale. Something that started as a little flame on the Titanic had become a raging inferno that was destroying their lives and left invisible wounds. The new millennium brought with it an impending reunion that would cause us to reevaluate our assumptions. A reckoning that would drive Leo and Kate to the edge of madness was on the horizon, and it was coming with Revolutionary Road. The sensational and sad rumors, however, remained in control for the time being, drawing them farther into an unending drama from which they could not escape. Everyone assumed that Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet had permanently parted ways in 2008, that the days of the Titanic were behind them. However, a reunion that stoked a conflagration of rumors and reopened old scars was Revolutionary Road. It wasn't only a film, it was a scandal in the making, directed by Sam Mendes, who was married to Kate at the time. You could sense the animosity radiating from their on-screen argument as they portrayed a married couple ripping one another to shreds. The air was heavier than it had ever been. Even though her husband was barking commands from behind the camera, Kate, who was married and steady, had to emotionally and physically strip down alongside her closest friend. "It was too weird," she said afterwards, her voice trembling with anxiousness. "It messed with my head to act out those sexual moments with Leo while Sam was watching." And Leo? Insiders claimed that he chain-smoked between takes, his hands trembling as he lit each cigarette. Yet he continued to smile through it all. Their connection was palpable, with an untamed intensity that sliced through to the core. "We didn't even have to try," he confessed once, his expressionless eyes betraying his true feelings. "It was a sudden event." Could you tell me what that meant? Rumors were flying throughout the scene. Were Sam's eyes tricked into seeing anything? Was this an act or an act of treachery? Even though nobody knew it yet, the stakes were quickly increasing. The 2009 Golden Globes were the icing on the cake. Tears running down Kate's cheeks as she stood on stage, she stared directly at Leo in the crowd, winning Best Actress for Revolutionary Road. She spoke with a glassy voice, saying, "I've loved you for 13 years. Every sound faded out of the room. Leo leaned forward in his chair, planted a kiss on her lips, and smirked nervously. "For the sake of the cameras and our privacy," he whispered, "I've loved you too." But he never actually said it. Kate was bound to Sam as a married woman, while Leo dated a different model every month as Hollywood's most eligible bachelor. That instant, though, was more like a confession wrenched from their hearts than a trophy. He did nothing while she bled, according to an insider who was close to the couple. The tabloids lost their minds. Fans and Kate's secret admirer were holding their breath for the revelation. Did they have an unspoken bond that may harm them both, or was this just a friendship? Kate clung to her prize as the night came to a close, while Leo slipped out the door with an unidentified blonde, leaving everyone to wonder. The public proclamation marked the beginning of a connection that would navigate life's most challenging moments together. Now fast forward to 2012, when Leo startled everyone by walking Kate down the aisle at her wedding to Ned Rock and Roll. It happens. With a look that was equal parts pride and anguish, he stood behind her as she embarked on a fresh chapter in her life, dressed in a black suit. Kate subsequently remarked, "He's my family," while trying to wipe away her emotions. However, those on the inside noticed the signs. Leo was physically deteriorating, a buddy disclosed. He beamed for her, but he was crushed to give her away. That fateful day crushed the love, hopes, and dreams of countless people. Leo and Kate, the quintessential what-if couple, were relegated to the status of a mere footnote in their romantic relationship. Their followers were left in tears, and the gossip columns were abuzz, but the gesture solidified their fame. Would it have been his greatest sacrifice to date to let her go, or was he truly all right with it? That was just the beginning of the heartache. Kate was in the crowd in 2016, her hands tightly clasped and her face painted with a mask of optimism, when Leo finally won an Oscar for The Revenant. She sobbed uncontrollably, trembling and destroying her makeup as his name was spoken, telling reporters, "I've waited so long for this." Her voice was raw. "He deserves it more than anyone." Leo stepped onto the platform, his fists clenched around the golden statue. His gaze met hers first, a touching gesture of wordless gratitude that struck him like a punch. They hugged for what seemed like an eternity backstage. The words, "You're my everything," were muttered by Kate into his shoulder. According to an insider, it was her win as well, but she was devastated to watch him fight for so long. Years of standing by, helpless to stop him while he pursued his ambition, brought more sorrow than delight. The world grieved alongside her as the cameras captured every tear and shudder, but it was not the end of the catastrophe. Leo was a calm anchor for Kate throughout the tempest of her mother's death in 2017. In addition to being there for her during her grief, he also helped collect funds for her cause by auctioning off a $1.35 million dinner. He was quite reserved, a buddy said. He was under no need to. Aside from his public persona as Playboy, Leo's loyalty shone through in this unusual encounter. Then, in late 2021, after being separated for years due to the epidemic, they were reunited in Los Angeles. Upon seeing him, Kate sobbed uncontrollably and collapsed into his embrace. Her voice was heavy with grief as she described how much she missed him. He clutched her close, pressing his forehead into her hair as if she were his whole support. That embrace was their means of survival, according to the source. They had endured hell apart. Neither physical separation nor tragic events were able to separate them. To this day, I still don't know if it's a friendship or an unspoken love that's too risky to acknowledge. We were all left reeling and yearning for what happened next as the emotional climax slammed hard. Leo then made history in November 2024 by releasing a shocking revelation. Unannounced, he made his grand entrance when Kate was dazzling in the limelight at a film screening for Lee. His voice was calm but heavy with 26 years of history as he continued, "She's my dear friend." He went on to describe her as strong, honest, talented, and passionate. In response to his words, "I'm in awe of her," Kate halted, ran over to him, and embraced him so tightly that it ached. Whispering, "He's my Leo," she kissed his face as her eyes gleamed with tears. The audience went wild with supporters yelling and cameras flashing, but she seemed like she may crumble under the pressure. "It was electric," remarked one witness. "You could feel the weight of everything they'd been through." The few words said by Lowe broke the decades-long quiet he had maintained. What gives? Why finally come clean after avoiding the whispers for so long? Fans deemed it a tease, while critics deemed it closure. He spoke the word friend, but a gossip journalist noted that his expression revealed more. Not only that, but Kate's tears weren't joyous. The situation was unfiltered, in the open, and fraught with inquiries. For what reason did he remain silent? We were all on edge as the dispute continued to blaze brightly, even as the stage lights faded. What, therefore, is the true narrative here? It is different when you look at Leo's life. Even though he's 50 years old and still the Bachelor King, dating Victoria Soretti in 2023 and living it up, he consults Kate frequently for guidance. She hopes he finds a life partner, starts a family, and becomes a friend. He listens, but he never does, I spilled to a source. Is he too selfish to change, or is he terrified of losing her? There is a jumbled truth. According to one source, they are soulmates, and some believe it's the most genuine friendship Hollywood has ever witnessed. Others say it's a love so hidden that even they are misled. Despite this, not all soulmates actually marry. Whether it's platonic or passionate, the scandal that won't go away is causing us to fall apart as we try to solve it. This mystery is too great to ignore, so you'll have to choose a side. When will we see these two again? Some fans are wishing for a Titanic documentary, while others are hoping for a film featuring the cast's reunion. Picture them in their 70s, still causing heartbreak. Their chemistry could light the screen on fire, one ardent admirer said online. But Kate is keeping it low-key. "Maybe when we're 70, she remarked, laughing off the high expectations. As usual, Leo is completely mute when asked what he plans to do next. According to a source, he isn't explicitly denying it, but he isn't confirming it either. The din is unbearable. Will they wrap things up with a final chapter or just leave us hanging? A tragedy that has held us engrossed through every peak and low has been handed to us by Leo and Kate after 26 years of gossip, tears, and a bond that has outlasted marriages and scandals, something larger than any movie. The story follows a couple as they navigate the ups and downs of a relationship that has weathered the scrutiny of the public eye and the worst of life's storms. With that being said, what is your opinion? Does this seem like a casual friendship, or is it actually a love story? Share your thoughts on this disaster in the comments section.